All right, okay, we're back. So we had some technical difficulties. The stream just straight up crashed. So what we're gonna do is we are just gonna recap basically what I was saying really quick for the recording, and then transition right back into talking about video games. So, hey everyone, how's it going? So tonight we're just gonna talk about some of the games that I've been playing on this podcast, and since September, basically, we have been kind of really struggling with just kind of getting everything in order for our new house. And it's been a blast. We love it, but it is very crazy, stressful, and the amount of time that I have had for video games has been definitely lower than what I used to have over the course of the last several months. So, when we first moved in here and things started settling down right before my birthday, we did a big, super fun retro Sega Dreamcast stream. And I had a lot of fun with that because it allowed me to basically rekindle some of my love for my favorite system, the Sega Dreamcast. Basically, the Dreamcast is one of the last major systems that I really got excited about. I was in high school when the system came out in September 9th, 1999. It's also the day before my birthday as well, and so I will always remember that day that I rode my bicycle from my house to the game store, which is the game store that I ended up owning at one point later on. So I rode my bicycle, which was like at least 10 to 15 miles. Like, it was a very long ride. It took several hours to get to that store. And then I rode my bicycle back. And that was from school, or right after school. I remember I got home and it was dark by the time I got home, and then I had to go to church, and then I came back from church, and then I cracked open my Sega Dreamcast and started playing it. It was super fun. But during that stream, I played through a couple games, and I had a blast doing it. Soul Calibur 1 and 2. Now, Soul Calibur 2 wasn't on the Dreamcast, but I did play a little bit of that, and we beat the arcade mode for that, and so that was really fun. I really did enjoy that as kind of like a, hey, remember the Dreamcast? Remember these super fun games? We played Crazy Taxi. I think we played a little Sonic Adventure at the end there, and some fighting games. Just a blast of a stream. I really enjoyed it. Then I kind of started jumping back into some VR streams. I really enjoyed diving back into VR for Doom 3. Now, I remember when Doom 3 came out. On the PC, it was lauded as this technical marvel of a video game. I don't know if you were alive back then or if you remember it, but Doom 3 was the talk of the town, and it was incredible. So I loved the fact that Doom 3 came out, but my PC wasn't the best at it. Plus, it's Doom. I never got into the Doom series as a kid because I grew up as a Christian, and in a Christian household, Doom was looked down upon as a evil, satanic game, which you can make arguments either way, because you do play as the Doom Slayer, and you go into hell, and you murder demons. And I only know that now because we played through the entire series earlier this year. Played through Doom 1, Doom 2, and then we went to Doom 64, and those were all in VR. And so when I started playing Doom 3, I was having a real fun time with it, but I was playing on the MetaQuest 3. It's kind of back there on in the video portion of this podcast. And with Doom 3 being a standalone version on the Quest, it had some technical hiccups. Every once in a while, there would be a little bit of lag. There would be a little bit of frame dropping and things like that. And so some latency even on some of the controls where I would clip through things I shouldn't have, or there was definitely some crashes as well. And so that was kind of a little bit frustrating. Once I started like really getting into the groove of Doom 3, I started really digging it. But those first couple of streams, I think the first and second streams, I kind of got really stressed out because I was streaming it. And I was kind of a little bit scared, quote unquote scared, because it's a terrifying game. It is set as a more survival horror type of game instead of an actual action game like Doom 1, 2, and 64. So it was kind of a little bit crazy. But once I started kind of getting into the hang of it, I was enjoying it a lot more. But those first couple of streams were pretty rough. Not only was I streaming it, not only was I a little bit scared, I was also getting very stuck. The maze-like structure of some of those levels are just insane. They're really hard for me. And when I've got people talking to me in my ear while I'm trying to play the game, while I'm trying to listen to cutscenes or audio dialogue, and I'm also trying to talk as well, it kind of becomes a little chaotic. And that's just the nature of the beast when you stream video games. You have people chatting with you, you have to pay attention to the game, and you also have to be entertaining. So there's a lot of moving parts when you stream a video game. And that's totally fine. I'm A-okay with that. However, I was getting a little bit stressed. So every once in a while, I would just have to go, man, I just got to, mute chat, or I got to turn off the game volume or whatever, because it was getting a little bit intense. And that also took me to have to pause the streams, not in live format, but put that game on pause for a while and come back to it a few days later. Like after I streamed it, I would need a day or two where I just wasn't streaming that game because it was a little bit stressful. And I was already stressed out with all the moving stuff and things like that. But I'm still having a great time, and I finally ended up finishing that game. And it was interesting too, because I played that game back on the original Xbox in 2005. I don't remember most of it though, and going through a lot of the game this time in VR, I was like, dude, this is totally new looking to me. I don't remember this at all until the very, 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 very last level. And it was really interesting because I was waiting to talk about this part the entire time. And I did talk about it on stream, but I'm going to tell a little story here. So back in 2005, when the Xbox version came out, my friend Tom, my best friend at the time, and I would play that game together, and we had a blast, kind of making fun of it and, just goofing on it like, kids in college do. We're a college age at that point. And it was really fun because there was this one part where you go down into this area, this dungeon type level layout. And there's this almost like a head crab from Half-Life. That's what it looked like. And it was kind of stretched out like I'm trying to think of the word here, like a medieval dungeon torture device where the arms and legs were stretched out in four corners. And I remember it kind of moving in this weird way. And my friend Tom and I would goof on that when we saw it because it was just so out of the ordinary for the rest of the game. And it just looked funny because it kind of dangled there and went, wah, wah. It was trying to scare you, but it wasn't scary at all. And so I remember making fun of that. And I was waiting for that. Oh my gosh, my cats, sorry. They've been going crazy all day. I was waiting for that point to talk about it. And it just did not come up and did not come up and did not come up until it finally did. And I was like, yes, finally. And so I got to tell the story again in a little bit greater detail on the stream. But I was waiting for that. Lo and behold, it's literally the last 5 minutes of the game. I was like, oh my gosh, okay. It's also interesting too, because like I was saying, the game had some technical issues. And I was so bummed out about it for a good while. Those first 5 streams or so, I was just bummed out because those technical issues kept making me frustrated. I was getting a little bit worried and kind of frustrated when the stream would crash or the game would crash or when things would pop up when they shouldn't have, or, just a bunch of weird little technical issues. Lo and behold, I didn't realize that there was a PC version of Doom 3's VR mode. And so I finally got that up and running over the last, I think, 2 streams of Doom 3. And so I was playing the PC version of Doom 3 VR instead of the standalone MetaQuest 3 version. And that made it so much better. It was awesome. So I had a really good time. I really enjoyed it, and it's probably one of the better VR experiences I've had just because there was so much atmosphere. I remember Doom 3 being talked about when it came out. Oh my gosh, this is so atmospheric. Oh my gosh, this has such great lighting. That was a big thing back then too with Doom 3, was the lighting was realistic. When I came to it in VR, I was like, oh yeah, it's definitely great. But I was always a little bit bummed out because I remember Doom 1 and Doom 2 and Doom 64 over the course of this early summer period when I started playing those in VR for the first time. I was like, dude, Doom is an action game. This is crazy. This is so much fun. However, Doom 3 totally changes it. It flips the script. It goes in such a different direction where it's more Resident Evil-like. It's more of a survival horror game than an action first-person shooter game. There are parts of it that are first-person shooter action adventure type of style to it, especially kind of near the back half. But like I'd say the first 3 hours of the game at least is survival horror, period. It is dripping with atmosphere. It is drenched in this dark, dank, horrific, terrifying experience with monster closets where things just pop out at you constantly. And you're constantly being scared. And it isn't until the back half of the game where you actually end up going, oh yeah, I feel powerful. I feel empowered enough to just murder all these, demonic demons, and then you jump into hell and you fight them all. That was what I wanted out of Doom 3. And I didn't get that until way later, several hours into the gameplay. So I was a little bit bummed out. And it's also cool, too, because the port team, Team Beef, they have been porting a lot of these first-person shooters from old school, 90s era video games to the MetaQuest 2 and 3. And they started doing the the expansion pack for, was it Resurrection of Evil, which is the expansion pack. So I was actually going to play that last night. And like I was saying earlier, I was so exhausted from just a lot of stuff. I'm still building the new studio. I started moving stuff in today. So I'm really excited. I started playing around with some of the cameras. I got one of my cameras is straight up gone. It's out in, the new studio now. So I'm starting to transition into the new studio. I got to still set up a bunch of stuff, and that's what I'm going to be doing after work tomorrow. But I'm so excited for all of this stuff, and the VR mode and area is starting to come together a little bit. I'm having a blast with video games. It's one of my favorite hobbies. It is my favorite hobby. It's the thing that I do most often when I am not spending time with my family or my animals or working, right? It's video games. So I'm having a blast with that. Another game I wanted to talk about is the DLC for Alan Wake 2. It's called The Lake House, and this is the second, I think the last DLC that they put out. The first DLC came at the Summer Games Fest. Sam Lake came out on the stage and said, hey, DLC for Alan Wake 2 is dropping tomorrow in 24 hours, and a big old crowd yell and all that. And I was stoked because I honestly loved Alan Wake 2. I have some issues with Alan Wake. There's definitely some woke stuff in there. They totally erase-swapped the main character because of Sweet Baby Inc. and DEI and all that garbage. But on the whole, for the most part, that game is solid. It's a solid experience. And I'm not a horror person. I don't like jump scares in my video games or anything like that. And I think they did a phenomenal job with Alan Wake for the most part. So I was really excited. That first DLC is called Night Springs DLC. And what Night Springs is in the Alan Wake universe is basically it's a TV show like The Twilight Zone. Man, I love The Twilight Zone. The Twilight Zone is like one of my favorite TV shows of all time. I think it is such an excellent, unique experience of a TV show. And so they kind of take that on as their in-game universe TV show, where it's kind of weird and awkward and things aren't really what they seem and all that. And they divide the 3 episodes of the DLC up into episodes, up into little vignettes. And so the first one starred my favorite character from that game. It was the character of the year from last year's Game of the Year discussions, which is Rose, the diner worker. She's like this super bubbly, just character that you cannot help but smile at. She's kind of a little bit ditzy, kind of a little bit unaware of certain things, and her personality just shines through in that game like no one else ever in the last several years of video games. So she's like a standout character, and she got her own vignette for the DLC. And it was awesome. I loved it. I really enjoyed it. And I thought obviously it's my favorite character. She's in the DLC. Like, that's going to be the best part of the DLC. And then the second vignette takes Jesse Faden from Control and places her in the Alan Wake game. Because Remedy, the whole studio that makes all these games, Alan Wake, Control, Quantum Break, Max Payne, they've started creating their own multiverse. It's not a multiverse, it's a shared universe where all of the characters are intertwined. But, there is definitely some interdimensional type of stuff going on too. And I usually roll my eyes at that. I usually go, ugh, whatever. But man, I'm so happy that they went with it, because I think it all works together really well. So Jesse Faden, the main character from Control, is the second playable character in this DLC. And I went, all right, cool, awesome. Played it, and I had a good time. But I was like, no, Rose. Rose is my girl. And then I played the third vignette in that Night Springs first DLC. And it is about Tim Breaker, which is like this security guard that's technically part of the universe and the shared universe. And he's kind of in the Quantum Break game. I think that's really where he's from. But they had to kind of change it up a little bit because of the user rights and licensing for Quantum Break, because that was at the Xbox One era where Microsoft was just like super into TV shows. So Quantum Break basically had like TV show episodes in the middle of the game where you just had to sit and watch a 20-minute TV episode while you play a game and you fight a boss, and then you're like, wait, what? And you're watching a TV show for 20 minutes. It like freaking sucked. I hated that part, even though I think it's a unique idea. But I didn't want that. I didn't want control taken away from me in the middle of a game. I want to be able to dictate when I play a video game and when I watch a TV show, not have it thrust upon me. So I was kind of a little bit bummed out about that. Anyways, all that to be said is the third part with Tim Breaker, which is supposed to be like a play on words of Time Breaker because of Quantum Break, which is all about time fluctuations and time machines and things like that. His is so good that it totally went, nope, I totally thought Rose was going to be the standout for that DLC. That third part is just phenomenal. They do such a good job, and I don't want to spoil it. I did play it on stream, but man, I think that DLC was fantastic. So, like, the bar was set really high for the lake house, right? And so I got into the lake house, and I'm like, all right, here we go. And you continue the Alan Wake 2 characters, and you play as, honestly, literally don't even remember her name. That's how little of an impact she made on me, is that I can't even remember the character's name that I play as in this DLC. She shows up kind of late game in the normal Alan Wake, and she's an FBI agent who shows up and all this paranormal activity is going on. I think. No. She's not an FBI agent because that's Saga, the main character that you play as. She's an FBC agent, which stands for Federal Bureau of Control, which is part of the Control games. So she is used to all the supernatural stuff. She's an agent from that bureau. And she goes into the lake area, and there's this whole building called the Lake House. And she shows up, and no one's there, and all this stuff. And the whole reason I'm talking about this is because she is such a throwaway character. I was so pissed off that I played as her that it just felt like, oh man, this is going to suck. And it kind of did. I really did not like that DLC. Partially, and this is a huge issue on my part, this is 100% on me, I got super stuck multiple times. Partially because it was the lighting in this room. I use a projector right now to stream because that's the only way I can get things set up right now. So when I play games, I'm playing on a projector, but I have to have light so that you can see me. And projectors and light don't really work very well. So when you have a bunch of bright lights shining in my face or shining around and bouncing light off the walls, it makes for a poor experience. And I'm also projecting on a wooden panel that's painted. It just sucks. It's not a good atmosphere for playing video games. That made it really frustrating and pretty much impossible to see certain text. And that's what happened. I got stuck because I couldn't see a Post-it note on the screen. And the coloring of the wording on the Post-it note was the same color as the wall. And so it just blended right in and basically became invisible. And I could not see it. And I was so frustrated that I just had to stop the stream. I came back like a couple days later and it still happened. Even though I already jotted everything down and I knew where to go, I still got stuck. I kept getting stuck. And it was this weird thing where it was like, what's going on? I have no idea why I'm getting stuck in this game. This is like a 2-hour DLC. It took me like 5.5 hours to finish. It's less than a 2-hour DLC. So I was really frustrated with that. And I don't think the storyline was that good. There was some interesting parts to it. I just didn't think it belonged in Alan Wake. It was 100% a Control game DLC. A Control game DLC. And it all sets up Control 2, which is starting to be in production right now. They just posted about it. So I was kind of a little bit bummed. I'm like, I want Alan Wake. I want to play as Alan Wake in Alan Wake. And they continually don't let me do that. Alan Wake 2 was supposed to be Alan Wake. And you play as Saga Anderson, this FBI agent, for over half of the game. When she's on screen, it's like a whatever game. It's fine. But when Alan Wake's there and it's really in as Alan Wake, oh man, it's so good. So the Night Springs DLC, it was all right, cool, but I want to play as Alan Wake. And then the Lake House DLC, I was like, dude, why am I not playing as the main character, the name of the game that I'm playing? Come on. So I was really frustrated about that. Anyways, all that to be said, Alan Wake 2 DLC, 50-50 on. Night Springs, absolutely phenomenal. Lake House DLC, completely dropped the ball for me. Completely. If I didn't already own the deluxe edition that had the DLC packaged into it, I wouldn't have bought the deluxe edition. I would have just bought the DLC piecemeal if I knew what it was going to be. And, that is 100% on me because, hey, I bought the deluxe edition the day before the game came out because it was on sale. And so I was like, yeah, might as well. I know I'm going to want to play the DLC, so I'm just going to buy it now, and then I don't have to worry about it. And I didn't. And it was good, too, because we just moved, and, money is tight and all that stuff. So it all worked out in the end. I'm just bummed that the DLC was not my thing. Then I continued on with the VR stuff with Alien Isolation. Now, this is a game that came out in 2014. And it's really interesting because it's always been one of my go-to VR recommendations. I've done a why VR is awesome video on YouTube. You can always go check that out on the YouTube channel. But my why VR is awesome video is one of the things that I'm super proud about because it basically showcases why I think VR is so cool. And one of my showcase pieces is Alien Isolation. Even though it came out before VR was actually a thing, or at least in retail form, I did get to go to E3 one year. And when they showed off Alien Isolation in like 2012, 2013, I think it was 2013 or maybe early 2014. I can't remember. But they showed off that game and they said in the closed off room demo where press, like it wasn't you could just walk in off the show floor. You had to set an appointment. It was behind closed doors. It was this whole thing. They said, we're partnering with Oculus to make a VR mode native for this game. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, that's going to be terrifying because the game looked terrifying. It never happened because the game came out in 2014 and we didn't get retail VR until 2016. So it just never surfaced. However, a dude, just some random dude, was making mods for VR, and he made a VR mod for Alien Isolation. And when it came out, it was game-changing. It was like, oh my gosh, this is so immersive. And that's the beauty of VR. It really puts you in the world of the game that you're playing. Like, you literally feel like you're standing in the, the Nostromo ship or the space station. When you look at those Worker Joe androids, it is terrifying. When you are crouched down underneath a desk and you see the alien's feet clomp around and it echoes in your ears and you see that tail sliding as it walks away, dude, there is like no other game experience like it. And it's why I just go to bat so hard for VR. I love it, and I think it's so incredible that so many people need to experience it. So I wanted to show it off, and I thought that was a really fun little extra thing. Was it Game of the Month? No, it wasn't. Was it? I can't even remember what Game of the Month for October was. But no, it was Condemned, right? Condemned Criminal Origins was Game of the Month. But I was playing it back to back. So I was playing Condemned Criminal Origins for Game of the Month in October. And then I was also playing Alien Isolation in VR. And it was terrifying. But it's October, so I was like, yeah, we might as well. So I had a blast with it. It was super fun. The game is stupidly long, though. Like, unbelievably long. So I was really, really interested to see where it went because I never played all the way through it. I got like 6-ish hours into that game and I played most of it in VR. I started it and my wife was like watching it when we first got married. I was playing around with it and I was showing her like Alien and Alien Isolation. She's like, oh, I don't like this game. This is terrifying. And then when the VR mod came out, I put it on and I played through and I continued my progress and she loved watching me play it. And it was like right when we first got married a little bit. So it was a real good bonding experience for us. So she was a little bit terrified, but she loved watching me play it. And so it was really fun. But I never finished it. And so I was like, dude, we should, I think she suggested you should play Alien Isolation on stream. And I went, are you sure? She's like, yeah, go do it. So I loaded up the VR mod and kind of got everything set up. And I just kind of continued my game save from when I first started. And it was a couple hours in. But most of it was hiding because that's what you do in that game. It took forever, it felt like, to finish. Every time it felt like the game was kind of starting to wrap up, something bad would happen, and then, the game would have like 2 extra hours before another, moment of, hey, this is starting to wrap up. Cool, I'm going to finish this game tonight. And then another couple hours, and it was just exhausting. It was so much fun. I loved it so much, and it was really enjoyable to be able to show off why Alien Isolation VR is such a cool mod. And it's such a bummer because the guy who made that mod doesn't do any mods anymore. He was working on a Halo Master Chief mod for VR, but then he got bought up by Bungie. Like, he literally got taken out of the VR mod scene, and now he's a developer for Bungie. And it's like, hey, good for that dude, right? Like, that's awesome. Like, that's the dream. But it sucks because we're never going to get that Halo VR mod. He just scrapped it. He said, sorry, I work at Bungie now, and then disappeared from the internet. He hasn't posted since. And it's such a bummer. But yeah, I think Alien Isolation was a super fun game. I think the only issue that I had with it was that it went on too long. And they even released DLC, and I would love to get to that DLC at some point, but I have no idea when I'm going to do that. There's so many games to play. I am constantly going, okay, I want to play this game, but that's going to be like another 5 days of streams. And I stream every night too, so it's kind of a little bit crazy. I really do want to be able to play all these games, but I have to start really, being selective about the games that I play. One thing about me, if you've never seen me before or watched me on stream, I like completing games. I really don't like putting games down. It kind of digs in the back of my brain a little bit. Like, it just digs at me like, hey, you didn't finish that game, you didn't finish that game, you didn't finish that game, to the point where I have to sit down and finish it. But if it's a long game like Alien Isolation, it's like, dude, this is going to, especially in VR, VR takes on a whole different meaning. It's going to take like a week or two. And that's of streams. And I stream every night, and it still takes a long time. So it's something that I have to work on. It's something that I got to be really careful and cautious about. I do want to play it. I do want to play those DLCs, but sometime in the future. Right now I've got so many other things. And during that time frame, last month in October, we had our game of the month, which was Condemned Criminal Origins. In Condemned Criminal Origins, for those of you who are unfamiliar with that game, it was a launch Xbox 360 game back in 2005. And oh my gosh, it's produced and made by Sega, and man, I miss that era of games. Dude, there's so many good games from that era that we just don't get nowadays. Condemned is one of them. So Condemned, I don't really remember a whole lot of it because I played the demo. Remember demos when every Xbox 360 game had a demo? It was awesome. So I downloaded the demo when it first came out because I was so hungry for games that I downloaded it and started playing it and went, this is a scary game. And so I started playing it and was terrified because I'm a big baby when it comes to horror games. So I never finished it, but I did always like it and was intrigued by it. So I made a game of the month for October so that I could just sit down and play it and stop being a big baby about it. And I'm so glad that I did because I had a blast with it. I do have some issues with it too, which kind of suck. It really did deflate my enjoyment of certain aspects of the game. And I've got a little marshmallow here. He might mess some stuff up. My little baby cat is messing around with stuff. So one of the big issues that I have with Condemned Criminal Origins is that you play as an FBI agent called Frank Elliott or Frank Thomas, I believe it is. And it doesn't really feel like he's an FBI agent. He just kind of feels like he's just some dude. And when you first start out, you are a cop, you're a detective, and you're like investigating crime scenes, and you got all this cool FBI gadgets that, you're scanning bodily fluids on the floor, and, you're checking for fingerprints and like on a neck of a corpse. It's super cool. But it never really goes anywhere. It never feels like that's the main objective or like a big game mechanic. It just kind of feels like it's fluff in the way. And it's such a bummer because I really, really enjoyed it. I had such a fun time doing those things and kind of scanning around and taking pictures in these like murder scenes. I was like, dude, this is going to be awesome. But then it switches, and it never really fully goes back to the FBI stuff. It switches into the supernatural, like cat and mouse hide and seek type of thing, where you're constantly being or you're constantly chasing something that may or may not be there, and then the ending is super ambiguous where it doesn't make a whole lot of sense and they don't explain it. So I was really bummed out with the story of the game, but I think the gameplay and the mechanics and the fighting and everything else was phenomenal. Yeah, maybe not phenomenal. That might not be the right word, but at least it was enjoyable, and I had a blast playing it. So I'm really interested to see where Condemned 2 goes, because they did make a sequel, and I know Condemned 2 is kind of a little bit more action-y, I think. And it kind of goes in some crazy directions. And I'm not a big fan of when people say it goes places, because that just means anything. Like, it just means, hey, crazy things happen. It's like, why don't you just say that? But basically, from what I know with Condemned 2 is it's a sequel. You continue on with your main character, Frank Thomas, from the FBI, and it just kind of gets crazier. Escalating weird things keep happening. However, I don't know if I'm super into the supernatural portion of that game. I want it more grounded in reality. Because when I was chasing a serial killer who kills serial killers, kind of like Dexter, right? I thought that was way more interesting than these weird supernatural things that may or may not be happening. Like, the game just never felt like it had a good hold on what reality we were playing in. And so I was kind of a little bit bummed about that, but it was still really enjoyable. During the month of October, a game came out that was called G.I. Joe Wrath of Cobra. And it's a very similar beat-em-up game, just like the more recent TMNT, or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Shredder's Revenge. And we played that on a Multiplayer Madness a couple months ago, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game. And man, I had a fun time with that, because I love being a turtle, right? I love the Turtles, and I've always played those games. I've always loved them. Heck, I owned a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1989 arcade cabinet. Like, not one of the ones for a couple $100 like the arcade one-up ones. No, I owned a real full-size token playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade cabinet back when I used to own the game store, and it was awesome. I miss it. I'm so bummed I don't have it anymore. So I love Turtles. And when that game came out, the Shredder's Revenge game a few years ago, man, I was so in love with it, but I thought it was very shallow. I do have some big gripes about that game. It's very, very shallow. You beat it once, you'll never play it again. You play with friends, but it's really just like a beat 'em up where you're button mashing and all that stuff. Then they came out with some DLC, and the DLC is actually really good because it makes it a roguelike. I'm not a big fan of that term, but it works, right? So you actually play all this stuff in DLC mode that actually has stakes and matters, and you accumulate points and you unlock stuff, and it makes it so much more enjoyable. So not the same team, but the same premise is applied to G.I. Joe, which is another thing that I have a full love for. But my love goes deeper than just the action figures that I used to buy or the TV show cartoon that I used to watch as a child. I'm not big on nostalgia bait. I really don't like nostalgia bait, where a company will go, hey, remember this thing from your childhood? And it's like a big shiny piece, right? Like, hey, why don't you play this? Remember this from your childhood? And then it's all surface level, like Shredder's Revenge, where they got the cartoon voice actors. They drew it in the style of the cartoon. Like, everything about it on paper is like, dude, this is perfect. This is on point. This is exactly what it needs to be. But then it just is all surface level, right? And that's kind of what G.I. Joe Wrath of the Cobra is. They do a really, really good job of making a surface level beat 'em up that feels fun to play and has a lot of callbacks to some kind of semi-obscure stuff that not everyone who just watched the cartoon would know. They do have all the main characters. You fight Cobra, you fight Destro, you fight Baroness, you fight Storm Shadow. You have playable characters like Scarlet and Snake Eyes and Roadblock and Duke and an unlockable Gung Ho, which has always been one of my favorite G.I. Joes. But they kind of go a little bit deeper on some of the background stuff. Like some of the levels you play in Springfield, not from The Simpsons, but you play in Springfield, USA, which is this manufactured town that Cobra takes over and is a covert Cobra headquarters. So everyone in the town is actually a covert Cobra agent. No one knows. It's all secret. They all look like normal, just regular Americans, but underneath the surface, they're Cobra agents. Super cool. You even go into some like other cities or areas where they have like background stuff that talks about like the Dreadnoks, which are Destro's like band of merry ragtag group of bandits and stuff like that. It's really fun, but it's all surface level. And that's kind of the biggest issue that I have. And the reason why I bring that up and because I want to talk about it is because over the course of the last couple of years, my cousin Matt, I love my cousin Matt. He's a comic book artist and he's worked on some actual really cool stuff. If you ever watched I think it was the Angel, the TV show Angel, with, I'm blanking on the guy's name, but there's an episode where he actually goes in and there's this comic book artist and blah, blah, blah. He did the art for the comic book in that TV show back in the early 2000s and stuff. So I love my cousin Matt. He's a comic book artist. He's super awesome. Anyways, we got to talking about a year and a half, 2 years ago about G.I. Joe for whatever reason. And he was like, dude, you should read the G.I. Joe comics. I was like, G.I. Joe? Isn't that kind of a little bit silly? And he's like, no, dude, just read it. So I started reading the G.I. Joe comics from the 80s, written by Larry Hama. And if you want to, and I'll probably write an article about this on the website because I do want to talk about this in a little bit deeper detail. But the G.I. Joe Real American Hero comic from the 80s, written by Larry Hama, who is a actual U.S. vet, is so well done. It seems nothing like the cartoon in the aspect that it's written maturely. It is not written like a child's cartoon. It is written like someone who actually experienced war and is writing war stories with larger than life characters. And that's the beauty of G.I. Joe is it really does. And this is kind of like on point for tonight, election night. Being a real American hero, standing up for what's right, standing up for what we believe in as a country for America. It was just like every time I read it, I went, yeah, America! Like seriously, like not cartoonish or not like a meme or anything. Like straight up, I'm proud to be an American. That was why I loved reading that comic. And yeah, it does get goofier like in the, late 90s where they started introducing or maybe mid 90s where they started introducing the war on drugs and stuff like that. But that quickly goes by the wayside. There is so many deep, interesting characters that he writes about and like Roadblock and Duke and Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes and Gung Ho. Like you have all these cartoonish characters, but they're written in such a beautiful way that it's like, dude, these feel like real people. They're written with hopes and dreams and desires and, love interests and all this stuff. Even Cobra Commander, comes off as not just a villain, there's a backstory there, and his backstory is really interesting. And you have characters like Dr. Mindbender, who's like this ridiculous person, and they always goof on him and stuff, but like he comes back and he's a real threat. And one of the favorite things that I talked about with my cousin when we started discussing after I read like the first 100 issues, they're up to like 100 or 300 and something now, like 310 almost. It just came back. So like if you want to get into G.I. Joe, oh, this is like a great time. But basically, the thing that I was telling my cousin Matt about was, I was saying, dude, you gotta understand, like, comics do not speak to you like this. They always talk to you like you're a child. And Larry Hama writes G.I. Joe like an adult. Like how it's so interesting and so cool. And basically, Cobra doesn't lose most of the time. The Joes are in dire straits most of the time. Cobra is constantly one-upping them, constantly figuring out their plans, constantly finding out where their hidden bases are and stuff like that, constantly taking down their numbers and demoralizing them. But because they're Americans, they stand up and they go, no, we're G.I. Joe. We fight for what's right, even in the most dire of circumstances. And that's, again, that U.S. vet writing these characters to say, no, I don't care what happens. We're still standing up for what's right until the very end. And those Joes continue to persevere and persevere. And man, by the end of the comics that you're reading, you are wanting to stand up and shout, "Yo, Joe," right along with them. It's so freaking good. So I highly, highly recommend reading G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, as goofy as that sounds, from the 80s, because it is phenomenal writing. Amazing writing. Perfect, beautiful writing. You're going to love your writing. It's tremendous. I got to do a little bit, right? So I highly, highly suggest it. It's one of my Ryan's recommendations for comics. If you haven't read the article on the website, go to gameordie.net, and just in the search bar for the website, just type in comics, and you'll see and I got to do this at some point. Don't worry, when the new studio happens, I'm going to kind of tweak a lot of stuff around so that I can show more stuff on screen. But I did this the other night. I brought up the article for Ryan's recommendations of comics in 2022. And I talked about the the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles IDW run, the first 100 issues. It's so good. And, you know, a couple Batman comics and Wolverine, White, Red, and Blood and all this stuff. And it's just, this is what I love about comics. When they are written well by good writers, and they don't pander, they don't write down to you like you're a child or anything. Like, even some of the goofiest sounding comics, like a Ninja Turtles comic or a G.I. Joe comic, can honestly pull at your heartstrings sometimes. Man, I don't want to give anything away, but there's some episodes or some issues of G.I. Joe where I ended up starting to tear up a little bit, because it's so, not just patriotic, but it's so of the human experience. It's written like a human would experience these devastating events in their life. And you just go, oh my gosh. And if that sounds stupid, if that sounds crazy, if that sounds like, oh my gosh, this guy's a big baby. Dude, people cry at movies, people cry at TV shows, people cry at video games. Why can't we cry at comics, right? And people cry at books. It's that emotional tie to that character that you have. And if you read literally thousands of pages of these characters, and then one of them ends up dying or something like that, or something heart-wrenching happens, of course you're going to be emotionally moved. You would have to be a sociopath not to be emotionally moved by that stuff. So that's my recommendation for G.I. Joe. The game itself, G.I. Joe Wrath of the Cobra, like I said, I did finish it, but it was just like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. A very shallow experience. And I think if they ever did a sequel, which I honestly just don't believe it's going to happen. But if they did, I think it would be awesome. I think it would be super, super great. So that's kind of what I've been playing. There's a couple other things. What are we doing right now? For Game of the Month, we're going through Like a Dragon series. Yakuza Like a Dragon. And then hopefully, we can get to Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, which is the sequel that came out earlier this year. I haven't been able to play like Infinite Wealth because I never finished Like a Dragon. Like a Dragon was the February game of the month, and it's such a bummer that I did not get to play much of it. And I'm continuing to play it for this game of the month, and I'm bummed that I'm getting to it, but it feels like a lot of people, just like last time, a lot of people don't dig it. I've actually had viewers say, I don't like this game. And I went, sorry, dude, it's game of the month and I'm having fun with it. I really, really like the Yakuza series. Partially why I made it is, number one, I do want to play Infinite Wealth before the end of the year so I can talk about it for game of the year discussions. But number two, the Yakuza TV show just came out. It's 6 episodes on Amazon Prime. You can watch it all 6 now, the full quote-unquote season. Man, that's not a season. That's a mini-series, all right? Can we stop the 6 to 8 episode TV seasons? I hate this trend. Remember when we used to get 22 to 26 episodes of a TV show every season? We used to be a proper country, right? Oh my gosh, I'm so bummed that we don't have this right now. I'm so bummed. But that's neither here nor there. My wife and I watched the Yakuza Like a Dragon TV show. And I asked my wife too, because I was just going to watch it. I was probably going to watch it on stream. I was just going to throw it up and see what happens. But I didn't do that, and I asked my wife beforehand because we kind of have this thing. Any TV show that we watch, we ask each other if we want to watch it. Just same thing with movies. And if one says, yes, I want to watch it, we have to watch it together. And so I asked her, do you want to watch Like a Dragon? And she said, what is that? And I said, you know the Yakuza games that I keep going on and on and on and on and on about? And she goes, yes. I go, well, they made a TV show of that. It's called Yakuza Like a Dragon. And she went, I don't know. Maybe. And so she said, yeah, you know what? Let's try it out. Because she always does that. Can we try it out? And I said, sure. We'll watch the first episode. And if you don't like it, you don't have to watch the rest. And I'll just watch it on my own. So we agreed to that. We sat down and we watched the first episode. And she was hooked. So we watched the first 3 episodes because that's what was aired. And then on Halloween, they aired the last 3 episodes. And we watched all of those. And man, I gotta say, it's a good TV show. Tremendous TV show. You're gonna love it. It's amazing. Beautiful. Oh man, it's getting late. But honestly, I think it was super fun. It was really enjoyable. They did change some of the stuff that went down in that first Yakuza game. But there was a lot of stuff that I predicted because I played the first Yakuza game. I know what's going to happen. I know these characters. However, I will say for hardcore fans of the series, they're not going to probably like it. The reason why is because it's more grounded in reality. If you ever played the Yakuza series, you know that it does drama extremely well, and it does goofiness extremely well. And they're married in this way that they play into each other, where everything is super ultra mega serious, but also super ultra mega goofy as well. And it plays this thin line to a T, where you're just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. They're making me feel and care about these characters, just like I was talking about with G.I. Joe, where I'm literally crying over things that are happening. this all actually happened in Yakuza Like a Dragon, The Man Who Erased His Name from last year. This is literally one of the best cutscenes I've ever seen in any video game. Top 2 cutscenes. And I was sitting there tearing up because of the emotional weight of the scene. And that's what this series does really, really well. But it also marries it with unbelievably goofiness, where Kiryu is like just murdering these fools on the street, kicking them up into the air and smashing their faces into walls. And and then you also just have the goofiness of some of the characters, like Mr. Libido, who's like this dude who runs up to you and he's walking around in just his whitey tighties and he's doing this weird goofy dance and all this. Like, it's so goofy, but it's so awesome at the same time. So the TV show is much more grounded in reality. So that's one thing that I will say, and this is honestly just what I see. I think a lot of people take things to way too much of an extreme. If they like something, they take it to an extreme. And it's like, dude, you don't need to be that person. We get it. You like this thing. Tone it down a little bit, dude, right? We've all experienced people like that. And I think the fandom of a lot of games are like that. Maybe because they're too young. Maybe they're, in their, teens or even younger than that or whatever. But I think there's a lot of people, especially on the internet, that just take things to such an extreme that it's a big turnoff for most normal people. Where we're like, oh, yeah, we like it, dude, but calm down a little bit. So I think the Yakuza fanboys, I don't like fanboys because they take things to an extreme. I think the Yakuza fanboys are not going to like the TV show because they're going to just equate it to, why isn't it like the game? And it's like, it's an adaptation. I don't want it to be 1-to-1 ratio like the game because we already have the game. Give me something different. Give me a new take on it. Keep true to the characters. Keep true to the spirit of the source material, but do not just try to replicate it. And it's a big thing with video games in general. They try to just be the thing that they're being influenced by, like movies, right? Video games are just trying to be movies, and it's like, stop it, you morons. This is a video game. Video games are such more vast and open-ended. They're influenced by the player themselves. They're more interactive than movies can ever hope or dream for. Play to those strengths. Don't just try to replicate a movie. So I do think that there's going to be a lot of people who are disappointed with the Yakuza series because it's not like the game. But it doesn't need to be, and it shouldn't be, I think. And what I watched of that series, again, all 6 episodes, I really liked. I think they could have ramped up the goofiness a little bit. I think there are certain characters like Majima, who is just so bat crap crazy that he doesn't get to shine like he should. But it's also the first season / first game, and Majima is not really that big of a part. He gets a bigger part later on, and especially Yakuza 0, where you really get to experience him because you play as him. That's where he shines, and they're not telling that story. So if people are going, why isn't Majima so much more in the series, or why isn't he showing up more? It's because he doesn't in the game either. So, like, if you're wanting to be like the game, and then you're saying you're bummed out because it's not like the game, but it is, like, come on, right? So anyways, all that being said, I really highly suggest watching it for yourself if you like the Yakuza series. I love the Yakuza series, and Like a Dragon takes a different approach because Yakuza 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, that's 7 games if you count them all follow the protagonist Kiryu Kazuma. And it's a great series. And then you have the Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name, which still continues to follow Kiryu, which is awesome. And then in 2020, they split the series and they called it Yakuza Like a Dragon and started following this new character, this new playable character called Ichiban Kasuga. And Ichiban is a totally different character, but he's very similar to Kiryu because he's also a Yakuza. He also goes to prison for a wrongful murder that he never actually committed. And then things kind of deviate from there. With Ichiban, the new character in this Like a Dragon game, he is more younger. He is more into video games. And so it's the gameplay style deviates. It's an RPG instead of a action adventure beat 'em up game. And so all the fight scenes are RPG, static, or not static because you can move around and stuff, but it's turn-based RPG. And I've never been a fan of turn-based RPGs. I actually despise turn-based RPGs. It's why I don't like Final Fantasy. I know. A lot of people think that's sacrilegious for a video game, enthusiast, someone who loves video games, to not like Final Fantasy. It's just never been my thing. JRPGs in general have never been my thing. There are standouts. There are exceptions or caveats, like Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger is one of the greatest games of all time, and I will die on that hill. It is a JRPG, but I still don't like turn-based gameplay. So, Like a Dragon is turn-based RPG mechanics, and it's something that I'm trying to get better at. I'm trying to enjoy it a little bit more. It's just difficult for me. So I'm going through this, and I honestly, I think that I picked this game going, okay, I'm going to restart because I want to have it on stream. I want everyone to be able to see this stuff. And like I said, I have a lot of people who are kind of commenting going, I don't like this game. I'm not having fun with it. I'm not enjoying watching it play something else stupid. So I'm trying to figure out what to play and where to, make those distinctions of this is my channel. I'm going to play what I want, but I also want to make sure that everyone's having a good time. So I kind of got to, kind of balance it out a little bit. So I will be doing a little bit less Dragon, Like a Dragon, in the coming days, but also I want to go really hard on it because we got to get through that game to get to Infinite Wealth. And I will definitely be playing Infinite Wealth within the next month and a half because I have to play it for Game of the Year, right? I have to. It's my thing. So all that being said, I really do like the Yakuza series. I'm just totally blown away because I forgot how cutscene heavy this game is. It's so cutscene heavy. It's incredible. I did not realize how cutscene heavy it was going to be. Because I did play this first section, the first I guess 7-ish hours, because I'm starting to kind of get near where I stopped playing. And boy, it goes some places. Boy, does it get crazy. But we're getting there, but I'd say probably about 80% of the game that I've played so far on stream has been just cutscenes. That's how crazy it is. I've dumped 7 hours on stream of that game, and about 6-ish hours out of 7 have been cutscenes. It's a lot. And so I get it why people go, I don't like this, or I'm not having fun watching it or whatever, but I also think it's really nice to be able to just sit back and watch some cutscenes and really dive deep into this character that I'm not as familiar with yet, hopefully. And it also helps me because these streams are done late at night. I have a very long schedule. I wake up, I go to work, I stream all day for work. I have to deal with, our animals and doing all that stuff. I cook and do, life, right? We do life. And then I hang out with my wife until the end of the night. And then I jump back on this stream and start streaming video games and start talking again. I don't have downtime. And so this is my downtime. And to have a little bit of downtime where I'm not talking, where I get to sit back and soak up some culture or whatever you want to call it, it does really help me too. It helps me relax. It helps me calm down. And I just love that. So I'm having a fun time with it, but I do hear the comments about play something else stupid or whatever, And I just kind of wanted to air that, not grievance, but just kind of air that out. Say, I understand why people wouldn't like it, but it is something that I am into, and that's what I want to play. So that is the game of the month, but that doesn't mean other things aren't going to happen. The new studio is being worked on. It's starting to take shape now. As soon as I'm done with my class tomorrow, I'm going to start tearing down this temporary studio. The cameras are going to be gone. The lights are going to be gone. This desk and all the computers are going to be gone and moved up into the new studio. And then over the course of tomorrow night, in Thursday, I will be able to start hooking everything up. Maybe do a secret stream, kind of like a test stream. I kind of won't announce it or anything like that. I'll just go live and see how it goes, to do like a soft launch of the new studio. And then once everything kind of gets in place after the weekend, then we'll really go hard with a kind of a full-blown new studio launch. And the reason why I say that is because, oh my gosh, this weekend is going to be exhausting. My wife puts on a dog show. And I'm not talking like a goofy little dog show for our family or something. I'm saying this is like a couple hundred people event and several hundred dog event. Multiple rings, multiple judges. I film it, we edit the videos and put it on YouTube and all that stuff. It's an event. And it's happening in 3 days on Friday. And we have guests coming over for the first time in our new house, so that we're hosting people in our new house. So there's so much stuff going on in the next several days that I don't know if I'm going to have time or energy to stream. So I'm just kind of giving that as an upfront for this next few days. I may or may not be streaming at the normal 11 p.m. Central Time. Which is why I wanted to get this podcast done tonight, because number one, I ain't going to be in the studio probably by the end of tomorrow. So this is the last time I'll be streaming and recording in this location. Next time you see me, I'm going to be over there. Way over there, about 1,000 feet away into the new studio in the new section. I literally can't even see it from the window because it's that far. It's also super dark. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. But anyways, I did want to kind of get this podcast done because I haven't podcasted in a while. And I normally at least try to do a podcast a month. It's funny because when I started streaming every day earlier this year in January, the beginning of January, I went, I'm going to podcast every week. Every Sunday, we're going to do an episode of the podcast. It's going to be a little bit shorter than it normally is because I usually go for about 2 hours, but we'll do a podcast. And I started doing that, but I was streaming like 6 to 8 hours a day. And then on Sundays, I was streaming for a couple hours. And then I also had work too. So it was just like, oh my gosh, this is too much. So I got a little over ambitious. So I kind of pulled that back a little bit. And life just got in the way. Life keeps getting in the way to the point where I'm like, I'm going to podcast today. I'm going to podcast today. I'm going to podcast today. All right, in 2 hours, I'm going to sit down and podcast. And then just something pulls me away. So I'm kind of bummed about that. I hope it doesn't happen often when I'm in the new studio because I'll kind of be a little bit more free from distractions. I hope my wife doesn't listen to this. And, and we're going to have some fun. So my goal, like I said, once we moved into this house, was to be in the new studio in November. And that's definitely going to happen. My goal for December, I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead. I got to get through this week first. But I think December, because it's going to be Christmas time, we're going to have some fun. But I got to start cramming for some games. I have a ton of games that I need to get through. I haven't even launched Batman VR. And I'm not talking about the 2016 Batman Arkham VR game. I played that literally in 2016. I'm talking about the game that came out a few weeks ago. Batman Arkham Shadows for the Quest 3. I literally haven't even launched it because I've been waiting to stream it. And I've been waiting to stream it because I want my new studio, because I have a VR area. So I started working on, some of the new layouts and things like that for the VR. Hopefully it's going to be super awesome. And as soon as the studio is set up fully, roughly around the time of Thanksgiving, hopefully, we're going to be just diving deep into some VR. We're going to continue Fallout 4 and finish that at some point in VR. We're going to play Assassin's Creed Nexus in VR. We're going to play Batman Arkham Shadows in VR. We're going to play Metro Awakening in VR. We've got at least 4 major massive games that I want to finish in VR by the end of the year. Also, I do want to play through a bunch of games as well. So I don't like giving away a lot of my ideas on stream or on the podcast. I want to make them happen first, because I try to do something that I learned from my boss way, way, way back in 2003. Under promise, over deliver. Always under promise, over deliver. If you think you're going to do something, do it first and then talk about it, right? So I don't like giving away a lot of the stuff that I'm going to do, but in late November, early December, I'm going to start hitting the ground running with some streams. We're going to go for hours upon hours upon hours of streams late at night once I'm done with work, until I basically pass out on stream. And I'm going to play some games. We're going to dive deep into some games. And I'm going to start changing the schedule up. I don't even know if I can bring up the schedule right now. But the schedule has basically been the same since July. And it's worked out really well, except for the last 2 months, mainly because of moving. Yep, there goes Tortellini. Sorry, cat comes in the camera shot. Hi, Tortellini. Can you please move? I'm wrapping up, buddy. Come on. Okay. Anyways. Hi. Okay. Come on. All right. So, anyways. Now that distraction's out of the way. What was I saying? I'm so sorry. I totally forgot. Tortellini just completely blocked my brain. I'm going to change up the schedule. I am going to drastically change how I do certain streams, and I think it's going to be for the better. One thing that I've learned over the last couple of years is don't be afraid of changing things up. Don't be afraid of trying new things. And I'm not talking about like food or something like that. I'm talking about my schedule. I really am a creature of habit. I find something that I like and I kind of stick to it. And I found something I like with that schedule. I really liked the schedule the way that we had it from July to late August before we moved. It was June. Was it June or July? Those couple of months were like fantastic because I knew exactly what I was going to play every day when I woke up. And what I was going to stream and how I was going to have everything laid out, it was phenomenal. But unfortunately, since we moved, I haven't really stuck to the schedule as much. I've been really, really busy, and it's just been dragging on. So I'm going to try something new. I'm going to try various new things. And this is something that I actually learned from Elon Musk, which is do as many different things as you can. Things are not going to work out, and it's their SpaceX model. We're going to do as much as we can to make something happen, and if it doesn't pan out, we're going to try something different. And that's kind of what I'm going to do a little bit. I'm not taking it to an extreme, but I will be changing things up. I will be doing different things, different layouts, different themes, different everything. And I'm very, very excited because I've told my wife all this stuff as soon as I started coming up with ideas for the new stream. And she said, I like that idea. I like it a lot. Not in that voice, because it wasn't like deep. But she really liked the idea of what I was coming up with. So I'm very, very excited. Again, just give it a little bit more time. I got to get through this week. I got to build some more stuff. We're going to have, like I said, we're having sets and things. It's going to take a while. So the sets probably won't show up until around late December, maybe by the beginning of the year. But when they do, I think it's going to be pretty cool. People are going to go, dude, this guy's got it going on. There's things happening here. And he's really enjoying these games. And it's fun to tune in every night. Like, I want these streams to be able to be something that you look forward to. Not something that you casually click on going, what's Ryan up to tonight? I want you to go, what's Ryan up to tonight? That's what I want. I want you to tune in to go, what game is he playing? You can know that by just joining the Discord, right? I always post in the Discord of, hey, this is what's going on. This is what I'm doing today. Every stinking day, I write out the schedule for that night stream. And it's fun. I enjoy it. And that's mainly why I do what I do. That's why I do this podcast. Because I like it. Because it's fun. If no one else shows up, that's okay. If I am just talking to one single person who likes listening to these podcasts and me talking about games and giving my opinions on it, that's okay. I'm here to have fun. And that's what we're going to do. So that's like my main goal, is to have fun, do some new stuff, and try and get it so that it becomes, I can't remember the phrase, it's eluding me right now, but it's something that they talked about with TV. Must tune in TV, where you schedule yourself to watch something. You make your schedule fit around that thing, right? That's what I want. I'm not saying I'm going to be the biggest streamer of all time. I'm going to have thousands of viewers and supporters and, Amazon Prime subscriptions. By the way, I use Amazon Prime subscriptions on the stream. I'm not saying I need thousands of that. I'm just saying that I want to make something interesting. I want to make something educational. I want to make something enjoyable and entertaining. Because this is what it is. It is entertaining. It's enjoyable. It's super, super fun. So, yeah, make sure that you're having fun, right? That is kind of the biggest thing there, is always try something. And as long as you're having fun, who cares what anyone else thinks? Man, my cats are going crazy tonight. I do care what other people think, to an extent. I'm not going to just say, screw everyone else, I'm doing what I want, because why even stream at that point? But I'm a performer, and especially after tonight, it was funny in the, I'll wrap up with this, in the improv class that I am in, which is super fun. We did a bunch of scenes today because we're getting ready for our first show. So we're doing our first show on November 22nd. And we started practicing some scenes. And normally we switch out a bunch of stuff. We play a bunch of different games throughout our class. And we stuck with one game the entire night. For 2 hours, we just did repetitions of the same game with obviously different themes and characters and all that stuff. But I went big. And I forgot how that felt because I haven't performed like that in a while. I used to do it in my church groups and events. We did like talent shows and all that. And I was always just, that was just who I was. But as I grew up and became an adult, that stuff just started getting less and less and less because obviously life changes, things happen, people move, and, I'm an adult now and stuff like that. But I forgot that part of my life for a while. And today it kind of came out again. It's been coming out a lot more since I've been doing the improv classes. But tonight it was just like, oh, I forgot how this feels. And I'm so excited for our first show because my teacher has been saying, because everyone else has never performed before, he's saying, dude, as soon as you do your first show, you're going to get that taste. You're going to get that taste of performing, and you're going to want to do it more and more. I'm like, dude, I come on camera and stream every night. So I'm familiar with that. I've been doing TV shows. Like, I've done shows before. I've been on TV before. Like, I get it. But I haven't done it in a while. And so I'm really excited to perform. And that's kind of the direction that I do want to take the stream a little bit as well, is to start doing something a little bit outside the box. I can guarantee you the streamers that you watch that play video games are not going to be doing what I'm doing. And that's where I'm very excited, because I started doing a little bit a couple months ago, and then I quickly backed off of it because we started moving. But I'm going way harder into that territory as soon as the new studio shows up, and I'm very, very excited about it. Oh my gosh, I'm stoked, as my youth pastor would say. But I think that's gonna do it for tonight's episode. It's definitely late. I've been talking for literally pretty much most of the day, and my voice is tired and exhausted. I'm surprised I have my voice, because I went hard into some characters tonight in improv. It's been a blast. But I've had a lot of fun tonight, and I hope I could have provided something. There it is. I was hoping that my voice wouldn't break up at the end there. But what I was going to say is, I hope that even though this is going to be recorded and posted on the podcast, that I could have provided some enjoyment for tonight. Speaking just directly for tonight, because, excuse me, I need water and I have none. And I'm not, like, I have this soda here because I was planning on cracking it open at the very beginning, but it's way too late now to have caffeine. But what I was going to say is that I hope I could have provided some enjoyment tonight, because I know a lot of people are stressed out. I mean, even myself included. Like, I think about it and I go, oh crap, what if this happens? What if that happens? And I think everyone is so stressed out. And I told my class this today, my work class this today. I said, we're just here to talk about this stuff. We are not talking about anything else going on. Our lives are so stressful. We're leaving that at the door tonight. And that's what I wanted for this podcast. I wanted to leave all of that stuff at the door so that we can just hang out and have some fun conversations about video games. I wanted to do a pinball stream tonight too. Like, I was talking to my wife, but dude, it's almost 1 o'clock in the morning, and I do have to work in the morning. And I'm just, like I said, my voice is just shot at this point. But hopefully everyone has a wonderful and awesome night's sleep. Hopefully everyone can wake up tomorrow feeling good about life. Hopefully our country will heal and things will begin to change for the better. And yeah, that's kind of about it. I think life is a lot better than a lot of people think. We need to be more confident. We need to be more assertive, and we need to enjoy life that we have, because life is way too short to worry about politicians, right? People who we've never met before, will never meet in our lives, and they don't know we exist. Why do we care so much? And there's way more to that than that, and I won't dive into it because we don't need to. Like I said, this time is a time to get away from all of that. So anyways, for myself and the Game or Die podcast, this is Ryan Moore saying you can always check out stuff at gameordie.net, or you can join the Discord at gameordie.net/Discord and join the Discord, where I post Game of the Month discussions, I post free games and deals, I post the schedule every day, and just having a fun time. That's what I'm here for, is to hang out and have fun conversations about video games that dive deeper than surface level gaming websites will ever touch. You know, I see that stuff all the time because I do browse all these different gaming sites, and I see all these headlines, and I'll click on the article and I go, oh, they wrote 3 paragraphs about nothing. Literally nothing they said mattered. It impacted me 0%. So that's what I want to dive deeper into, is discussions about video games, why we enjoy them, and all that type of fun stuff too. If you're not changing, you're choosing, and take action and make a difference. Exactly. So that's what I'm trying to do and that's why I suck at it, but I'm trying to be better at the whole, I'm trying to be the difference that I want to see. Just like with those articles. I write video game articles too. I haven't just done as much, but I write gaming articles. I'm doing gaming podcasts. I'm streaming every night. I, do all this stuff because I want to be what I get to watch. There's no one doing that stuff the way that I wanted to have it be done. So I'm just going to take charge and do it myself. Am I succeeding at everything? Probably not, but that's okay because when we keep doing it, we get better and better and better. And with that, I'll kind of sign off. Remember the 5th of November. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your night. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Take care. God bless. And I'll see you tomorrow night for more video games. Till then, peace out.